Hello and welcome to week 7 of English 120. This week we're going to be reading chapter 2 of The Bedford Researcher. You'll also begin reading The Call of the Wild, our novel for this class. You'll read chapter 1, found on pages 349 to 357 in the Portable Jack London. We're going to have a discussion about The Call of the Wild, chapter 1. In your journal, you're going to be answering 2 of the green boxes that are found in chapter 2 of The Bedford Researcher. The first one is Explore Your Topic, that's found on page 39, and then you'll also complete Choose an Issue within your topic on page 44. There's no research module this week, but you are required to work from all of the comments I gave back to you on revising your Essay 1 and turning in your final draft by the end of the week. Let's start off by talking a little bit about The Call of the Wild by Jack London. The Call of the Wild was originally published in the Saturday Evening Post as a serial from June 20th to July 18th in 1903. This is when London was 27 years old. It's set in the Klondike, and London drew from his experiences during the Klondike Gold Rush from 1897 to 1899 to write the story many years later. As you'll remember, he went to the Klondike, and many scholars think that instead of finding gold, he found the gold of the story. The main character of the story, this is really important to know, is named Buck, and he is actually a Scotch Shepherd St. Bernard dog. So when London writes from Buck's perspective, this is anthropomorphism, and that's where he's taking on the perspective of a dog in order to tell the story. There's a lot of reasons why he might have chosen to write from the perspective of a dog, but a lot of it comes from London's naturalism. Now, we've already talked about that a little bit when we're talking about his short story To Build a Fire and his short story Love of Life and Law of Life as well. The idea is that London is trying to show us what it's like for a dog, Buck, who in the beginning of the story is a domesticated dog. He's got a happy life. He lives on a nice property in Santa Clara, and he's stolen away and sent because this is the Klondike, and so all of these men are traveling north to find gold, and there's a lack of dogs up north, and so people are making money by stealing dogs and selling them on the black market to be part of the sled dogs up north. So that's what happens to Buck, and this is the story of how Buck starts from being a really civilized, tame dog to being more of a wild dog. And you should think about the title in that way, The Call of the Wild, the idea of what's happening to Buck as he transforms into from a domesticated dog to a wild dog. So for this week's critical discussion, we're going to talk about the first chapter of The Call of the Wild. Now, as you know, these aren't a lot of words that you have to read, but I expect you to read them very critically. I want you to think about this work in a critical way. So, for example, begin by actively reading the text, and then read the beginning quotation, the epigraph. Where is it from? So find the source. What do you think it means? Why do you think Jack London included that? Then I want you to think about the significance of the title of this chapter. I want you to completely understand what it means and ask yourself why he would name it that way. In the beginning of chapter 1, how is Buck described? Based on this description, how do you think he will deal with the hardships of the Yukon Territory? Which of his traits will serve him well in his new life? Which will he have to abandon in order to survive? What important lesson did Buck learn from the man with the club? What is meant by the line, "It was his introduction to the reign of primitive law, and he met the introduction halfway"? What does London mean by primitive law? How did Francois begin to earn Buck's respect? From the description of this incident, predict what Buck's relationship will be with a big, snowy, white fellow from Spitsbergen. So after you've created your own post, where you use evidence from from the text and also from outside sources to support your answers, then I'd like you to respond to at least 3 of your classmates' posts. And please do so by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. So we're going to begin working on our research project. The first big assignment you're going to have is your research prospectus. And in order to write a research prospectus, you really have to understand the whole conversation that's happening around your topic. So for your research journal this week, you're going to complete 2 of the green boxes found in chapter 2. Now note there are many green boxes, but you're only completing 2 of them. So please begin by reading chapter 2, which is all about exploring and focusing your topic. From last week, you should have, when you did your 3 free writes about finding possible topics to write your research project on. And just to remind you, you're going to be writing an 8 to 10 page research paper in the end on this topic. And the list of topics was in last week's lecture. In case you forgot about those, they're available in last week's lecture. But what I'd like you to do is choose one of those topics that you feel the closest to. And while you're reading chapter 2, you'll see it asks you to do some initial research in order to understand the conversation that there is about this particular topic. So say you're interested in, you really liked reading The Apostate and you thought, well, I'd really like to write about child labor issues or sweatshops. I'd like to write about sweatshops. What were they like in the early 1900s, and how are they different or the same today? So you'd want to do some initial research, begin with doing some research in World Book Encyclopedia, some of the databases, go into the library, talk to the librarian. You can always come into my office hours and talk to me about the topic. Do some initial research to get some sources and understand what do people say about this topic. What is the basic information you need to know in order to understand this topic. And through that, you're going to try to, you're going to explore your topic and really try to understand it. And then you're going to choose an issue within that topic. What could you write an 8 to 10 page paper about that is a controversial issue that you could resolve, or you could give us more information about, right? Or empower us to make a difference, right? When you go through the choose an issue within your topic questions, they're going to help you come to the final question, which is based on these answers. The issue I want to choose is. So the idea is by the end of this week, you're not only going to know the topic you're going to write about, you're going to know what arguable issue, what thing about this topic specifically do you want to look at in your paper. Because next week we'll be moving on to developing research questions, a way to really think about asking questions when we're doing our research and getting closer to finding a thesis statement that we're going to be writing our paper from. That's it for this week. Please make sure you post your revised essay as one of the assignments. Complete all of your reading before you complete the other assignments. And as always, let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help you. Have a great week.